Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Cosmo Muse. In this week's reading, we are going to be looking at the Celtic, it's not quite, they have 8 seasons, so it is like starting at summer solstice until into the first week of August is called Litha, but it starts at summer solstice. So kind of the welcome into summer, what's the vibe, what do you need to know? I'm going to be doing a reading that is straight from this beautiful Season of the Witch book for the Litha season, which starts, like I said, at summer solstice. So just like a few, and it's the welcome to summer spread. So we'll first there's going to be 6 cards. I'll just tell you what this is going to be. We're going to look at your biggest lessons from spring, how you experience the most growth, and then a card to see how you can successfully transition from spring to summer. So those first 2 cards, I'm actually going to be using the Beltane Season of the Witch Oracle for that past season. And then starting at the 3rd card, we'll switch over to the Litha deck. And so that's how you can successfully transition from spring to summer. And then we'll look at what you can look forward to in summer, and then an obstacle you will face and overcome, and then how you can experience the best summer ever. So I'll be doing a card for each of those 6 things, and then I'll do a tarot card with each of them too, just to tease out a little extra context. So that is going to be the reading, and just some themes. I'm not going to get too deep into some Celtic lore here, but just some themes that tend to come up around how, Celtic cosmology talks about this season. Is it has a lot to do with abundance, cleansing, creativity, fire energy, growth, inspiration, motherhood, power, success, vitality, warmth. So it encompasses, in terms of astrology, Western astrology, it encompasses the season of Cancer, which is about, picking up on that motherhood and some creativity and inspiration, and cleansing and warmth. And then half of Leo season, which is kind of this, there's a little bit of power and success and vitality and fire energy there. They're both of those are very creative signs. It also kind of like encompasses those energies as well. So let's dive into this by choosing your piles. I have pre-shuffled and chosen some cards from the Spring or the Beltane deck. So pile 1, we have Scavenger Hunt. Pile 2, Mulch and Manure. And pile 3, Herb Crafting. So feel into these 3 piles, whether it's the title that grabbed you, the artwork that's grabbing you, some colors, just something that's drawing your energy somewhere. Whatever it is for you, just feel into where you are being drawn to learn about, like the exit from spring and the entrance into this next 6 weeks. So summer solstice through to Lammas, which is in the first week of August. All right, I will see you guys in your piles. Hello, beautiful pile 1. Let's dive into your Litha or summer solstice through to midway through Leo season or the first week of August, sort of the energy coming in for you, and starting the reading by looking at like what happened for you, like what to take away from spring. So the first card we'll be looking at is the one that you chose from, and that was, what was your biggest lesson from spring? So you guys have Scavenger Hunt, and this says, what you thought was hidden is hiding in plain sight. So you may have recovered something, remembered something. Let's take a look at, in the guidebook, the keywords. I'm not going to read the whole description for these cards, but why is that? Oh, you know what? I think this is from the summer deck. We're gonna save that. I don't know why I did that. Okay, we're gonna pick a card then for this first one. I'm gonna feel into what position that's supposed to be. I think we'll feel its right place when the time comes. Okay, so your greatest lesson from summer. from spring. Oh, is it Mercury retrograde or something? What's going on with my mind? It isn't, but okay, so you have oak. Don't just look within, dive deeply into the eternal realms of knowing. Very mysterious. Okay, so that's card 27 with wisdom was the key word for that. This doesn't have a lot of keywords to it like the summer one, but I'll read the last sentence here. If you, oak reminds you to reach out to the unseen support all around you, commune with nature, the spirits in the universe, and ask them to guide you. But generally there's a wisdom around oak. So you may have, and in Celtic cosmology, these great trees like oaks are what they use to travel between the worlds in their belief system. So there's an upper world, which is kind of the angelic realm. The middle world, which is where we are, but also where the dead and ancestors also tend to be in the middle world. And the lower world, which is more dense with nature, a little bit slower pace, more densely natural, and has the realm of plant and animal guidance and realm. And so these great trees are what they use with the branches to reach, the upper world. The trunk is the middle world, and down into the roots you reach into that lower world. And so this talking about, diving deeply into eternal realms of knowing. Don't just look within yourself. There are other realms you can kind of plug into. And so you may have kind of felt the presence of helpers, or felt the presence of things outside of even just your own wisdom and your higher self, like something else beyond there. Like you may have found, just like looking at, you almost see these branches plugging in, and you can almost see the root systems plugging down, plugging up and plugging down. You may have felt like you became very connected to certain sources that really fed your wisdom and fortified your wisdom, So a great lesson that came in spring was maybe like how to do that, or the need to do that, the need to make space for things bigger than you, deeper and higher and just unseen a little bit. But it may have been like a little bit of a solitary spring for some reason, but I think you probably came out of it with a more calm and centered spirituality, I guess you could say. So let's do a tarot card with this as well. Three of Fire. Yeah, I do get the sense that it was something, this work you did here with kind of plugging into things more subtle and being quiet with that and listening a little better. It's like it opened up new doors for you, or a new sense of your own vitality, or a new sense of what lights you up in life, like how to find those passion points within you that give you direction. So whether or not you feel like you have a greater sense of direction, you are starting to tap into that, like knowing how to reach the thing in you that recognizes what your passion is, and so if not yet, soon that will give you like a greater clarity of direction. Okay, let's get the next card. The last one for spring was, where did you experience the most growth? So this was a lesson you learned, and then like what kind of growth came in for you that was less like a challenge and just more like very fortuitous things. The Lovers. Love lulls all sorrow and bewitches flesh, mind, and breath, reminding me that I am unafraid of the unfurling winds of my eternity. Okay, and that's card 42. The keyword here is vulnerability, and let's see if there's like an easy sentence at the end to read. Those who show up and support you are the ones who will help you to grow and enrich your life with happiness. Yeah, so you may have really recognized in spring like the like-minded people around you, the souls that make you feel at home, the people who truly care for you. Like this card hints at, there could have been for some of you like a new love interest that has felt very safe and beautiful for you, but I don't think it has to apply to like romantic love. It feels more like finding those soul connections, the right connections, the like-mindedness, Okay, let's see a tarot card with this. So a lot of growth around that, a lot of like fortuitous things coming there, and then death. So that's very interesting. You may have, this may have felt like a big transformation for you. For some of you, it might have been that you cut some cords with people that didn't really fit that mold for you. For others, it might have just been that like you felt something shift within you and suddenly you were attracting more kind of soul-like people, carrying people into your life. So minimally like a transformation, but because this is supposed to be a very positive thing, even if you did let go of certain people in your life, I think that would have been like a natural, easy kind of transition, like not a drama necessarily, just sometimes things move on and energies disperse, more like that rather than some, big to do, because we're reading this particular position as a positive, like what flourished for you. So I do generally just feel that there was like a transformation within you of recognizing your own self and valuing your own self, hence attracting that back. Okay, so moving on to summer. How can you transition from spring to summer? The best thing you can do to do that. And it just feels natural. I was waiting to see what would feel natural for this card. It feels natural for this one to come here. Okay, so we have scavenger hunt. So let's see what this says. And it says, what you thought was hidden is hiding in plain sight. So let's see some keywords associated with this as well. Hiding in plain sight, new perspectives, considering other options. Interesting. It's sort of like, is there something that you are hitting your head against the wall with? Like you know how they say, like, when you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, it's like the definition of insanity. Do you feel that in some ways? There's something in your life where it's just like, I keep doing this thing and expecting something to happen or change or reveal itself, but it's not happening, you know? And it's like, okay, how can you change something up? How can you do something differently? And it's like when we've all had those moments of when you just get so frustrated and you're like, you know, I'm done I mean, I'll give you one example that happened for me in spring is I love writing fiction. I love having homework assignments to read literature and deadlines with it. But when I'm left to my own devices, I think of myself as someone who would constantly read and crave that, because I do, like, my soul craves it. But when I'm left to my own devices, I don't, like, it's not something that I just have a tendency to do. And it's almost like I need an assignment to do it. And it's something I constantly have judged myself about, like, you know, you're a literary person, like, why is this not natural? Because it seems like it should be. And so I was taking a course on the Odyssey and some contemporary books that sort of played off of themes in the Odyssey. And I was running out of time to read the last one for a class, so I downloaded the audiobook, which I've always been like, that's not my thing, like, I read. And I just enjoyed it so much. And I realized, like, it doesn't, like, there are things about reading that I still love, like using sight to take in story. But the auditory thing really connected for me. And I'm like, why am I judging that? Like, I might just be more, you know, maybe me taking in and absorbing information happens better through audio than through sight. And that's just, you know, that's not something to judge. That's just like how I process better, how I take information in better. So I kind of like peeled back that judgment that I don't even know where it came from. And now I don't know if you could say read, but like I ingest literature constantly now through audiobooks, and it is natural, and I do tap into it constantly, and I do crave it, and I pick it up and I do it on my own without having to have it assigned. And so there might be something like that happens where it was like, I feel like this thing is supposed to happen, or this is supposed to be natural, but it's just not happening. And then you're forced to do something differently, maybe because of, like me, like a time constraint or some other, you know, circumstantial issue. And you're like, oh, this is my natural tendency, and this is how I digest things or am productive or find joy, or, you know, like whatever it is for you. But it's like right under your nose, and it's like you just have to kind of switch a perspective or peel back a layer of something that doesn't necessarily need to be there, a judgment that doesn't need to be there, you know, something like that. That's what this feels like being able to get into. And when I think of summer, like being able to transition from spring, which tends to relate to putting in a lot of effort and toil and self-directed energy, whereas summer, you start to lay back a little and let things grow on their own because they can now, and enjoy life. So like to transition into that energy of just allowing life to be more joyful and a little easier, what do you need to do differently? You know, that's right under your nose. Watch for different circumstances that push you to do something different, and see it open a door for you to a way to just like enjoy, enjoy life more. Okay, let's get a tarot card with this. Curandura of Earth. That's like the king of Earth. They are braiding sweetgrass, which is very, in this deck, the Curandera or the king is like the healer. And sweetgrass is kind of like you can braid it and dry it and burn it to kind of have a cleansing energy. So maybe there's something you need to cleanse. I think whatever this refers to, like you have a masterful ability with something, but it's like you need to cleanse an old way to make space to think differently about how you're doing something. Just like what I was saying, it's like healing like an overlay that doesn't necessarily need to be there, or a judgment or an opinion or an assumption that's not needing to be there, that's blocking you from being masterful at a thing that you are, that is natural for you, hence you can be or are masterful at. It's like, yeah, what can you cleanse? There's something just needs to be released and removed, kind of thing. Yeah, okay. So the fourth card we're doing is, what can you look forward to in summer? All right, let's see. Lemonade. Make the most of your situation by opening your mind to new possibilities. So to me, this is almost like a progression, an extension of what we just talked about. So this is indicating you will figure that out. Like this is showing that, because this is a card of like, what is it that what you can look forward to is like, you're going to figure this out. You're going to find the thing that like opens your mind to new possibilities. And I feel like it even broadens that like as soon as you find that thing that's hidden in plain sight and open your mind and change your perspective a little bit, it's like not only does that align you with the thing is supposed to be there, but all of a sudden it also breaks doors down in all sorts of directions and avenues and possibility, like it just, everything starts to amplify. And so that's something you can look forward to in summer, is not only are you going to find that thing that's hidden in plain sight, but it's going to just feel like magic. Like it really unlocks all of these possibilities that have meant, that were meant always to be yours, that were always there, but like you just didn't have the right key. And it's like suddenly life just comes at you in all the best possible ways. And then we've got Ace of Air. Yeah, new potential, new ideas, powerful ideas, feeling the strength of your mind come alive, powerful connections being made. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Ideas, connections, communities opening up. Movement, if you're looking for travel or experiences, just to like, summer is a great time to have adventures and travels. And so, the air can help bring a lot of movement into our lives. So something might empower that as a possibility, like a greater possibility that, something that hasn't felt as possible before suddenly starts to feel possible in terms of movement and experiencing life in new ways. Okay, fifth card, what obstacle will you face and overcome? Roses, the soft petal felt upon your flesh is ready to release her thorns. Okay. And that is card 30. Divine love, lasting relationships, and support. It does feel romantic to me, so whether you're already in a positive relationship, or you're single, or you're newly dating, or whatever your circumstance is around love, there may be some kind of, because this is a challenge faced and overcome, there may be something you're questioning, some kind of sense of time and timelessness regarding someone or wanting someone in your life. And so like how, let me look at those keywords again. Support. There may be something you face, you know, like a challenge you face in terms of how you are feeling supported in love right now or this season. It feels more broad, like this is something you've needed to face or intended to face or are waking up to that you need to face. Like how support works in a love relationship, or in generally how you view, you know, so like even if you're looking for love and you don't necessarily find that love this summer, there may be something you face around what it means to be supportive and find someone supportive. Like that might just be a challenge you're really working through and facing and overcoming, like really having those aha and pushing past a growing pain and a growing edge. But I get the feeling that it has to do with contemplating and exploring what being supportive and being supported means and feels like, and its purpose, and how that holds some kind of key to finding really enduring relationships and healthy ones, that kind of thing. So let's get a tarot card around this. So what I'm feeling from the card isn't necessarily that you'll be going through a drama with a person. That is definitely a possibility. But I'm feeling more strongly that it's like this internal question that you're contemplating and exploring that changes something in how you're orienting to feeling secure about relationships. The Magician. Yeah, you have the wisdom, you have the information, you have the willpower to figure this out, which is why sometimes we don't confront things until we feel like we have the tools we need to confront it. And this is just confirming with the Magician that you have the tools, you have the inner resolve, the tools, the mindset, all those things. You have everything you need in your tool bag to face this and overcome it and really feel that kind of new growth edge in summer. Okay, last card, my favorite one I've been excited to get to. How can you experience the best summer ever? Just, you know, such a simple question, and I love it. Oh, beautiful wildflowers And this says, when you allow yourself to imagine wildly, worlds of worlds are created. Gorgeous. And that just feels like letting your inner child out, allowing yourself to dream big, think of bigger worlds for yourself, create worlds in writing, imagine worlds into reality that you want to manifest. But generally just like allowing your imagination free, which allows your inner child to also be free, which allows you to tap your natural essence and to feel more natural about yourself. And that imagination, the power, like a lot of people might say, like it is very childish or, young thing to indulge in. But what's not always recognized about imagination is that allowing our minds to wander relieves it of friction. And when our minds are relieved of friction, things flow, things happen. We get our green lights. So it's not just whimsical, it's actually incredibly powerful. And so that is the way to have your best summer ever is to find a way to release some mental tensions and imagine and meander and daydream and play and, all of that just inner childy kind of stuff. And I think it's going to end up being very powerful for you. And bringing in manifestations that more easily. And then we've got the moon, which kind of supports that. Allow to have your best summer ever. Allow yourself to go into those imaginal realms, fictitious realms. And the moon in the tarot is actually associated more with Pisces than Cancer. So like fantasy is also infused here. Allow yourself to fantasize, to engage in art, to dream. It's a slightly different energy than what I was picking up with the wildflowers with Cancer, which is daydreaming and it's sort of like that active dreaming, whereas the moon and Pisces is more of like the asleep dreaming or escapism, versus like wandering and curiosity and whimsy. But they infuse here, so it's like the most magical you can possibly be, go to, go do something you wouldn't normally do that connects you with nature. Like go to, I know in the state I live in, there's like a Shakespearean festival that happens where, the plays are in outdoor amphitheaters and you're outside and you're engaging with these fictitious worlds and, something where you can be outside and engage with, I don't know, just story and escaping into things that are outside of time and space kind of stuff. So just whatever you can think of that feels magical, that plugs you into nature, that allows you to just let your mind go kind of thing is really gonna help you have the best summer ever. Okay, so to end the reading, we're just gonna get you a power animal for this 6-week summer time period from June 21st through it's usually about August 5th, 6th that next quarter or cross quarter, I guess, starts. Swan, awaken artistic spirit. That very much so feels connected to the moon and the wildflowers. It's just really allow yourself to dive into art and fantasy and other worlds and other realms, and just find that flow state. I think you're gonna, the swan has association with transformation too. I think it will really transform something in you and make you feel more elegant and beautiful. So there you go, which is no childish thing. That is, just beautiful. So, all right, have a gorgeous summer, and I wish you the best. If this really resonated for you, always appreciate the likes and subscribes, and definitely comments. Those things all help to draw more people to be able to access the reading or see it as a possibility. So appreciate you if you do that, and I will see you in future readings. Hello, Pile 2. Welcome to your reading, where we're going to be looking at the 6-week Celtic season that is, they call it Litha, but it starts at summer solstice and it goes until their cross-quarter season of Lammas, which is so from about June 21st to, we'll say, August 6th. It's usually, give or take a day. So let's tune in to your reading. You guys picked this mulch and manure card, which we will get to. That's actually going to be our third card, but we're going to start with going backwards into spring really quick, into Beltane, to check on number one, what was your biggest lesson from spring? And then B, how did you experience the most growth in spring? So a little bit of reflection before we move into summer. Okay. And we have Fire Festival. Through flame and through song, there will rise a new dawn. Beautiful. So this is what was like your main lesson of spring. And the main keyword for this is new perspective. I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm usually just like seeing if there's a last sentence that sums it up. The answer to your situation is a new perspective and a radical shift in your beliefs. So a lesson you learned, like the main, a big, at least, lesson you learned in spring was you may have kind of felt like a phoenix rising from the ashes, like an old way of seeing sort of burned to the ground, and you arose like more mature, seeing from a broader perspective, from a much more wise, and like feeling like a version of you, certain patterns of behavior due to a way you see or a perspective you hold, now feels distant, like feeling like you were starting to see your patterns and see the way you were seeing and understanding you needed to kind of push your edge with that in spring, and by the end feeling like you could stand back and see some distance between that instead of kind of getting pulled, like anytime we're at a growth edge, we kind of get pulled back into old centering on and off, we are sort of like teetering between the two. And I feel like the big lesson that came with this spring was that you finally pushed past that growth edge and found this more dynamic perspective and way of seeing, and we're able to stabilize in that instead of kind of teetering into it. And so it feels to me like you're able to look back at a version of you and be like, okay, yeah, there's distance between me and that version of me that I was seeing and trying to grow out of. I can now see it. I have actually grown out of it, and there's distance there. And I love the 11 for this card because it does feel like a frequency change. That can be one symbolism of 11, is that ability to create frequency changes. And so I feel like that happened for you. And so you're kind of rising from the ashes of an old version of you that had a perspective that wasn't quite as mature. And now you're able to see from a little bit more distance, with a little bit more wisdom, and a little bit more capable of holding complexity easily, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's get a tarot card with this. Oh, 2 came out. Let's see what happens. We've got 3 of Earth and the Fool. Yeah, like a new you, new impulses. That I feel like the 3 of Earth is indicating what these new impulses will lead to, this new version of you. The results and the patterns that will start to anchor in as a result of having stabilized in this bigger, more mature perspective, is this ability to get things done, to hold more responsibility, to manifest a little bit more easily, to find ways to work well with others. Also, this thing of being able to recognize your strengths and limitations, and the same in others. So like knowing how to manage and orchestrate really dynamic, effective teams, or like putting the right pieces together to create beautiful outcomes, even if they aren't wholly your outcomes. Just seeing that, like, when I work well with others and use my strengths and tease out the strengths of others to work in symphony, really positive things can happen, and much bigger things in my life can happen. And I feel like that's a pattern you're going to start to see due to this new sort of elevated perspective you're dropping into. Okay, next spring card. So this was the biggest lesson you learned in spring. And now we want to look at in what way did you have your most growth. So they seem similar, but this first one is more like the challenge you overcame, the thing you faced. And the growth, the way I'm reading it, is like, what were the really positive things? Like, maybe you did things in the past and karma was coming in for you. So like, where was that positive influx of growth that wasn't hard? It wasn't a lesson. It just kind of came. Like, what were those positive things you can reflect on and be grateful for in spring that came easily and were beautiful? And we've got ribbons. For it lives in the silk of my binding, the knots in my truth, the eye of becoming, the witness swallowed in stillness. Okay, let's see the main keyword. And you have 11 and 33, 2 master numbers. So spring was very transformative, I would imagine. Maybe subtly, and this is awareness. Wow. Okay. I'm just trying to find a sentence to tease out here. Ribbons reminds you that you already know the answer to what you have inquired about. Allow the truth of your query to come to your consciousness. Trust your ability to see what you need at this moment. The witness and the awareness, it feels so connected to this, what I was talking about with your first card. You may have already started, like, I'm wondering if this transformation of stabilizing and anchoring in a more mature perspective happened earlier in spring, and you already started to see some be able to use that perspective, which it was more in my head. I wasn't saying out loud because I didn't want to get too philosophical or technical in this reading, but something that I've studied a lot is developmental psychology, and there's this thing called a stages model of developmental maturity. And in one of them, it does drop you into a witness perspective. And it's how you are able to hold polarities shows what stage of developmental maturity you are. And when you get to a level that can be a witness, you do gain a lot more awareness of life, not just self-awareness, but awareness in general. And so I do feel this thing that you were already starting to feel that element of you of being able to be a witness, in a perspective that holds witnessing very well. And my own experience with that, this isn't necessarily taught, but it's my philosophies and experience with that, is that from that place you're really able to see those unspoken psychological agreements that happen. If you know astrology, it's very scorpionic, really being able to see the undercurrents of things, the unsaid agreements, the psychic scripts that are playing out. And so you see those invisible bindings that are actively binding and actively unbinding. They're constantly happening in life with people, and it has to do with power dynamics and control and empowerment. And I think you're already starting to be able to witness that and see those undercurrents of things, and really know how to have some wisdom with that, and how to approach those things with a little bit more maturity and restraint and compassion, because they are the things that really torture a lot of humans. And a lot of humans never get to that developmental stage where you can really, everyone at moments sees we all have moments where we can see those or break those and see it for a moment. But to be stabilized in a position where that's always obvious to you, that's a level of developmental maturity that not all adults get to. Where I would say not even 50% of adults get to, probably grossly less than that. I don't know percentages, but if I were to guess, I would say 15% of adults get to. And so you may already be experiencing, usually I wouldn't speak so sophisticated and technical in a reading, because I want to welcome all levels of development here, but I feel like I'm speaking to people that are dropping into this, and so it's worth speaking to, and it's worth getting a little bit philosophical and technical and advanced, So if you don't know what I'm saying, I feel like it's trust that maybe this is planting a seed, because you're all or speaking to a seed that's already been planted, and it in a month you may be oh, I totally get what was being said there. Okay, so this was the growth you were experiencing, and it probably felt like a big expansion in you, like a gift, like a big expansion, and like you're seeing things so differently and much more kindly as well. Less harsh judgments coming out of you, less dogmatic needing my point of view to be seen, and anger towards those who behave in ways that don't align with your values, It's like being able to see those power currents and how people are influenced and how you're influenced and how people are projecting and interprojecting. And well, now I am getting too technical. So we are going to move on, I think. Oh wait, we need a tarot card with this one too. So Adelita of Air. Yeah, it feels very, to me, that's confirming, like it feels new but fresh. So it's like there's an eagerness with this new perspective. There's that feeling of like you're just entering it. So there's a lot of growth to lean into in it. And just feeling like you have the curiosity, eagerness, energy to just dive in head first and really learn everything you can learn. And like you've passed a certain growing edge, and now it's like you're like a kid again in this new centering. And it's an eager place. It's a youthful feeling place. So it feels good. And I like seeing that under this, because this was supposed to be like, what was the growth thing that was like some abundance coming in. So I like seeing this youthful energy associated with it. Like, yeah, it felt new. It felt fresh. It felt exciting. So that's really beautiful. Okay, transition card. This is the card that we use to choose piles. What do you need to know to best transition from spring into summer? And so to me, that's speaking to, spring has a lot of efforting and being motivated and self-directed and like putting the elbow grease in. Whereas summer, things are now starting to grow a little bit more on their own without so much of our needing to constantly be watering and feeding and babying things. It's like things are now adolescents, and young adults in their growth phases, whatever you're doing in life, like things are starting to just not need as much of your effort to still be growing and thriving. So like, how can you ease up and start to enjoy life a little bit more and allow the abundance to come in and the growth to just naturally take place? So how can you switch out of that a little less control of things and a little more allowing things to flourish, allowing them to grow, how they're going to grow? And so you've got mulch and manure. Hardships are coming to an end. The seed you sowed will be blooming soon. I mean, that's really funny. That's like basically what I was just speaking to. Like, there's been a lot of effort to, so this, let's say for some of you, this might be like a project you started, or maybe you literally created a garden this spring, and it took a lot of effort to prepare the area the garden was going to be in, maybe building a garden box and then getting the right soil in there and the right watering system, and then like designing the garden. Like, okay, so like basil works really well next to tomatoes, but you don't put peppers next to tomatoes, so those need to go over that. Like there's a lot of, and they need this kind of light, and this needs this kind of water, and that needs that kind of water. And so there's a lot of like, figuring out. And then there's, the seed is planted this far down, and Just so much to keep on top of when you first start creating a garden, or it might be, a work project that felt like that, like having to get all the pieces put together and threaded and, but now like trust that things are blooming, like you did that hard work and now just like let them bloom, and that those hardships of initiation and having to make things happen, that phase is over. And so literally, like this is such a literal card for what this position is about. It's hilarious. So it's literally like that's what is happening in your life. Like things are going to blossom because you put the work in. So let them step back and allow things to be easier now, and trust that the work you put in is just growing now. Let's get a tarot card for this. So to me, it's like trust, just trust that the work you've put in is paying off. And then we've got 7 of Air with eucalyptus. The way I'm reading this particular 7 of Air is like you may have in spring, or whatever this feels like it's referring to for you, the thing that you have been putting a lot of effort into to kind of get off the ground. You may have been very experimental with it, like decided to do things your way and march to the beat of your own drummer, and so have some concerns about like, well, will this be received? Will people understand this? Will this, will I pass the test? Maybe it's like you've been studying really hard for exams or something, but you studied and experimented and like did things very differently than is taught. And I just get the sense that it's like just trust, like you're following some kind of personal genius, and so just like trust that. Trust you. That's what I'm going to say. Trust your personal genius. It is paying off. There is something that is going to start blossoming around this thing that might feel like a little marching to the beat of your own drum. Lean into it, trust it, allow it to start blossoming. Okay, so card 4 is what can you look forward to in summer? We've got Horse. Unsure of how to break out of your cage, Spirit shares strength through acts of liberation. I mean, this feels like a continuation of like doing things your way, and it's like, how can you move? I'm just picking up this story thread here. Like, how can you feel like life is moving forward by breaking out of the box that things have been in for you? How can you run more free, march to the beat of your own drum? I think that's been a big concern of yours. Like, how do I do me in this lifetime and feel like things are moving forward and that there's traction and power behind it? And this is saying that like what you can look forward to in summer is like Spirit is helping this happen. Trust, like again, the thing that is coming through is like trust that that forward movement is coming, and that liberating forces are starting to circle around you, coming in for you to help you. You don't have to do it all on your own. And then some keywords here: freedom, regality, confidence, strength. So something you can look forward to in summer is like feeling that liberation that you've been seeking, and it being, this thing that it's like you're catching the wind. Your confidence comes in, your strength comes in. Those things that were offbeat, that you weren't sure about, that you're like, is this going to be accepted? Or, like, am I wasting time here? Am I on the right track? And it's like, yes, look forward to summer confirming this, and not only confirming it, but like backing you and helping you to catch the wind and the current and really stretch your legs and show your stuff, kind of thing. And then we've got Hija of Earth. Which is like, push these up a little bit. It's interesting because the Hija of Earth is a hard worker and that toil, and we've kind of already said like that's easing up. So I kind of feel like what's coming through about this card is like the care and attentiveness, the methodical approach you've had, the systemized, the way you've really cared for your craft or what you've been doing or what this has been about in terms of like letting something grow that you've put a lot of effort into. It's showing that like you deeply care about it, and you have put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of there's something you deeply value. It wasn't just like I'm experimenting and I want to feel more free and more me. It's like deeper than that. Like your inherent values are very entangled here, very woven into the fabric of what you've been doing. And so that's all the more why there can be concern about like, is what I'm working on or what I'm doing or efforting with going to pay off? Because there's some kind of reflection of your value about that. And this is saying that like that's going to be mirrored to you, and I think like in greater ways than you expect. Like you're expecting or hoping, just desperately hoping that it will be mirrored back to you equal to what you feel your value is, or feel the toil you've been put in. You just want to see it back, right? To be seen, to have it reflected to you that these are valuable things. Your inherent value is valuable. But what's going to be reflected back to you as something just like really breaks free and catches a current and is fully liberated for you to start galloping rather than being corralled in a cage is like 100 times amplified compared to what you hoped to have reflected back to you, or the success you hoped to see, kind of thing. Okay, next card is, what challenge will you face and overcome in this summer, this next 6-week summer time period? Oops. We have wand making. With a flick of focus, you will come to see a vision realized. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we've been headed and what we've been talking about. I do get with this pile that there's something you've been working really hard on. Let's see. So just quick, some keywords: creation, directing energy, and manifestation. So my feeling is the challenge that's going to come your way by suddenly feeling this liberating force and this force of things taking off for you is, what direction do I go now? I'm free and I could go anywhere, right? There's so many possibilities. And that can then be spread thin and not be taken advantage of and not end up manifesting all that could have been manifest. Like I get the sense that something will manifest and beautiful things will come no matter what. But the challenge you're going to end up facing now that there's this freedom and this new confidence that comes in is how to direct that to really take the, most advantage of things, to get the most out of it. And so you will overcome it by finding a way to, really finding that vision to focus on, to really direct all of that free energy into one place, like a laser, that is like a wand, like a laser, like really being able to pull all focus and all possibility towards one direction and one target kind of thing. So it's like this initial bursting free and things blossoming and things taking off, and then having to be like, okay, well, things are getting very dispersed and very chaotic, so I need to focus this somewhere and really charge at something, very specific. Like, what is the 5-year goal here? Something like that, where it's like, okay, what? I need to pick a target because now, like, things could go anywhere. And so that's what I see as the challenge that you will face and overcome. Okay, let's get a tarot card associated. Curandera of water, king of water, or healer of water. So trust, trusting the mastery of your emotions, staying calm, attending to self-care, like let things move through you. This is saying, like, just tap into a mastery with allowing things to move through you. Observing emotions rather than reacting to them. Really using your emotions to tap into intuition. Feeling very confident in your intuition as well. And that being, I almost kind of feel like, I know this has zero association with like a wand or a laser beam, but there is something about this pouring of water that still feels like that directing energy somewhere very specific. And so it kind of feels like pulling your emotions together and really trusting your intuition in how you're focusing on a target, on a goal. Letting your emotions kind of steep, observing them, and come together in some way to really direct you. Which does make sense with, this time falling during, Cancer season falling during this time, because that is a season of like really allowing emotions to move through us and using our emotions and connecting to intuition and aligning soul with vision and higher mind to find that most aligned direction and like pruning all of those pathways that spring creates, all of those possibilities to really find your aligned kind of like soul direction. And so I like that coming through. It does feel like it's kind of picking up on some Cancerian energy. Okay, last card, and this is my favorite one. is, what can you do to have the best summer ever? Sunset dinner, an invitation awaits you. Yell to the stars that you are ready to go. Beautiful. I mean, very simply, I see just, enjoying time with friends, having patio dinners, garden dinners, dinners with people. But also, are there some interesting invitations awaiting you? Like, open up to meeting new people, open up to being invited into things that are different and stimulating and all those. Let's see the keywords that come up too. An invitation, a seat at the table, and leveling up. I love those, a seat at the table. And it's like in this liberating force and having your value mirrored back to you and really stepping into your confidence. And the horse also said regality. It's like you're taking your seat at the big boy table. Like you're really coming into your authority, right? People are taking you seriously suddenly. I don't know why I said suddenly. That just came out of me. So that might feel like something to you, like finally. I think whatever comes, it's been long deserved. So how can you have the best summer ever? Accept your seat at the table. Accept those invitations. Embrace the authority people are seeing in you and asking of you, and enjoy it, because this doesn't look like a solitary throne. Sometimes being at the top or being that authority can be very lonely. And this isn't like, it feels less hierarchical, like I'm the boss, but more like I have something to contribute to a certain level of thinking and experience in something. Like I deserve a seat at the table to be part of some bigger conversations, like I have something to contribute that's valuable, and I'm now being invited and heard and respected there. But I'm not like this, stepping into this solo place of authority. I'm just joining kind of the council, right? Part of the being invited into that kind of hard to get into council, right? That hard to get into thing that requires certain time-tested wisdom, certain results that you get, certain contributions you've made are what open up a door to be part of that council. You have to be time-tested and show your contribution. So whatever's happening, in these next 6 weeks, or it really feels like jumping from just not knowing if anything you've been doing is going to go anywhere to all of a sudden whatever you've been working on really being something you can be proud of that's really contributed, and then using your intuition on how to direct that once it's kind of out in the world and flourishing, and then allowing yourself to be taken seriously and allowing yourself to sit at, sometimes people have fears of stepping into their authority. And so this is saying this is something you should do. It will help you to really enjoy summer. Don't be afraid to take a seat at the table. It's going to bring you a lot of joy. Like it's not as, you know, and I just look at this image, like it's not as serious and austere and stiff as you might expect. It's actually quite lively and silly, and you know, like there's nothing to fear there. It's quite lighthearted actually once you're there. Like we can project so much onto that table we want a seat at as it being these like very, oh, they're so impressive and like I'm not good enough. And then once you actually make it there, you're like, oh, they're just as like silly and ridiculous as me, you know, and it's a good time kind of thing. So like take your seat and you know, let summer show you how fun it can be at that seat. And then we've got 9 of Fire. Yeah, you've been on a big journey. You've been on a big, like there's a whole narrative arc to look back on that has given you so much experience that you don't realize the value it's going to have for people and the wisdom it is going to provide and the perspective it will bring into the world. Like you do have time-tested experiences and wisdom that are worthy of that seat at that table, whatever that table means to you, you know? So you may think like everyone goes through these kinds of journeys, and so what makes this different or mine any better or worse? And I'm not saying it's better or worse than anybody's, but for that, the seat at that table, whatever that table is to you, you have a journey that fascinates that table, that is valuable to that table. Okay, so to end this, let's get you a power animal for summer. Whoosh. Fox, welcome nighttime magic. I just think of cleverness with the fox. Allow your cleverness to be seen. I do think you've been developing in a lot in the dark of things. Camouflage, like maybe a lot of people haven't seen you developing, they haven't seen you coming. They're totally unaware of what you're about to bring. And so when you do come like that, I think that's like how you will be seen and experienced, is like this very clever force that they're like, whoa, they were here this whole time. And they're just kind of like in the, you know, in the shadows a little bit, watching and observing, and like, who knew? Like, I think people will be very intrigued by whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is that is about to flourish for you, whatever it is that's bringing you an invite to the seat at the table. It's like people are very intrigued and enchanted by whatever you've been doing sort of behind the scenes, you know. Yeah, take that as you will. All right, this is where I'm going to leave you guys. I hope this resonated. I hope it brought you some insights on reflection on spring and what to look forward to in summer. If this did connect with you, it's always super helpful. I really enjoy and am grateful when you do the likes, shares, subscribe, definitely comments. All those things help make this channel and this reading appear for other people to find. So yeah, please engage with that if this did connect for you. And I super appreciate you being here. Have a gorgeous summer, and I will see you in the next reading. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to your reading, where we're going to be looking at the coming season of Litha. which is in the Celtic wheel of the year. That is from summer solstice until the cross quarter season that is directly between solstice and equinox. So about June 21st to about August 6th is that Litha season. So let's jump into this reading. The first things that we are going to be doing is reflecting on spring before we move into summer. Like what, first thing we'll look at is what was your biggest lesson from spring, and then how did you experience the most growth? So they sound similar, but the lesson is more like what's the challenge you overcame and like grew from through challenge, and then what is the thing that, you know, came more fortuitously and easily that was a growth as well, you know, more like reaping some karma versus you know, challenges that push you to grow. So let's look at the challenge first. So this card is actually going to be the third card we look at, so we'll get there soon. Okay, so what was the challenge that you overcame, you know, that helped you learn some lessons in spring? The growing edge you kind of pushed into, I guess you could say. Orgasm, trust. Oh, thrust your body, elevate your spirit, open the gate to your renewal. Okay, so let's look at the key word or words for this too. Release. And see if there's like a sentence or two that just pop out. An emotional release doesn't have to be dramatic. There are many ways you can free yourself from the storm brewing within. Giving yourself a creative expression is a healthy way to channel darker emotions. Dance or cook or lose yourself in art, body expression, or music. Doesn't matter. The medium doesn't matter if it brings you a sense of freedom. Okay, so this is more a sense of finding an ecstatic state to free certain energy, to let the storm that's been brewing kind of like purge out of you, right? Like body, heart, and soul just sort of open up, and it just feels like this energetic purge. So there may have been some things in spring that were either dramatic externally or internally. There were a lot of tensions or growing edges you were coming up against that kind of like the feeling I'm getting is like tied up in knots. You know, whatever was happening either externally, internally, or both, like had you tied up in knots, and you had to learn how to find ways to release that, how to find a medium to discharge all of this energy that was getting kind of stirred up in you. I mean, I can think of one example from my own spring that's probably, I don't think this is necessarily my pile. And this is a very, very silly one, but like one of my little like guilty pleasures is I enjoy following court cases online. So there's a thing called LawTube where like attorneys will follow certain court cases. So they'll read all of the different filings coming in on it, and they'll talk about, you know, certain behaviors and like kind of putting up a mirror to both sides of a dispute. And I can sometimes get a little bit like too invested in those and get riled up, and I had to sort of shut that down this spring because I got a little bit worked up with a court case I was following, and I'm like, why? This has zero to do with my life. This matters zero in my life. I don't know these people. Like, I need to just, so I had to kind of like cold turkey quit. So a very stupid, silly example. I'm sure if this is your pile, it's a little bit more of a personal thing going on. But I did, like I had to find a way to, I had to find other things to, like when I walk my dogs, that's when I would listen to things. And now I've gotten back to maybe listening to a beautiful pick a card reading that's more uplifting, or listening to a podcast that's positive. Like I just had to switch the medium, to like start feeding my soul more uplifting things. So for you, maybe there was a personal drama or a legal case or some internal things that you were really battling. I imagine if you're here, this is much more personal stuff that means something to you. And just like that challenge of finding a way to release energy from that, to feed your soul things that countered that. And, like dancing while you're cooking to release it, and reading poetry before bed to feed your mind something beautiful. Going, like, I don't know, like lessons like that of like how to discharge that storm in a constructive way and feed yourself yummy, beautiful, like ingest, let things into your soul and body that felt more like honey and flowers rather than bee stings and vinegar, So maybe something this summer around, like really learning how to discharge and soulfully feed yourself. Let's get a tarot card around this. Awakening. Now, Judgment. I do think this is like, I wouldn't be surprised if some people coming here were going through some legal things. But even if that's not your case, it's like there was something dramatic going on that kind of felt like an end of a chapter, an end of an era. And it's sort of like the final closing, it's like graduation is that judgment, like you are done with high school, you're done with college, whatever it is, like you'll never be back here again. Once you go out that door for your last day, you'll never be back here as a student for this degree or a student at all here. Like that door is closed, So, like it could be like that, like you literally were a student that graduated, and it's like how to shake off studying for exams and finals and the stress of that, and how to feed yourself beautiful things to sustain your body and soul. Or it could be something more, more difficult, like a legal issue, or, but yeah, there's definitely some kind of like hard decision point that that was being faced with spring. Okay, so what, and like less, learning how to really take care of yourself in that. Especially with this awakening, there are these mala beads, which are these things that you can they can be used in a meditative way to kind of soothe you. So it does show like, how do I soothe, how do I learn the proper way to self-soothe, right? That seems like the lesson of spring, if I were to distill it into a sentence. How did I learn to self-soothe better, Okay, so what was, what did you experience the most growth in? So this is more, the way I'm interpreting this position, this card position, is like, what was that more easy growth? Like the things that more easily were thriving, but sometimes we take for granted. So it's worth reflecting and being like, oh yeah, I did experience a lot of growth in that. And because it was easy, I maybe didn't recognize it. But now as I look back, I can be very grateful and like really digest that in a new way and have a new perspective with that, and really in reflection enjoy something about it, or like really mark that, bookmark it as like something beautiful. Boundaries are sewn into the parts of who you are, parts of you sorry okay Boundaries are sewn into the parts of who you are, for they are not to be crossed. Oh, so maybe that is, they kind of feel hand in hand. Like maybe you, in spring, experience this ability to really protect your space, to really protect what you let in and out with a lot more control and strength than you have in the past. And it was something you were able to witness and be proud of and be like, wow, I have like done, I'm doing really well with this. Like I'm finding this new strength in what boundaries are for me, what they do for me, how I hold, the mechanisms I use to hold them well, mechanisms I use to create them, because boundaries are different. I feel like everyone experiences, what am I trying to say? I feel like boundaries work differently for everybody. Like for me, my natural, just when I'm in my natural state, I just don't have boundaries. I let anything in or out. Like my boundaries are very porous. And so the way that I utilize boundaries is I take a lot of time to be alone to process. And I've learned to say, can I get back to you on that, instead of saying yes or no immediately to, invitations or requests for my time or energy. I've just learned to give a little space and time between, responding to things, and giving myself a little more space and time between engaging in a lot of things. But there are other people who, I certainly can think of some people in my life whose boundaries are immediately felt, where if someone says something they disagree with or invites them to something they don't want to do, it's just like so easy for them to be like, no. And like to even know, like for me, that's wild to even know in the moment, like, no, that sounds awful, Whereas like, I need a day to meditate on that. I don't know. Does that sound good? I'm not sure. So, they work differently for everyone is my point here. But I think like this spring, you started to see how they work for you, how your boundaries function, and so how to take care of them. So something really grew for you around that in spring. And I think you're, something you should look back on and be very proud of, to be like, yeah, I really figured this out. I really kind of witnessed how my boundaries work, and so how to take care of them. And like, wow, what a gift, Okay, let's get a tarot card for this. 10 of Earth. Yeah, and it's something that is helping like your lifestyle to feel more thriving. It's something that's, that growth that you came into is something you may already be experiencing, but I would also say that you can expect to experience, that it is really transforming how you're experiencing your lifestyle. It's really helping your life to find its systems better and to find the way it flourishes. Like what are your daily processes, your daily rhythms, your daily practices and rituals and habits. There's something you're really figuring out in those day-to-day systems that are helping you to start thrive in your day-to-day more. So that's really gorgeous. Okay, now we're getting into the card that was for your pile, which is Herbcrafting, and this is the card, switching over to now the Litha deck from the Beltane of Spring, that's giving some insight on the best way for you to transition from spring into summer. So from spring, the energy in spring is a little bit more assertive, a little bit more self-directed, a little bit more effortful and driven. Whereas summer, all of the work we've put into trying to initiate things and grow things, it's like comparing it to planting seeds. In spring we have to create the space for a garden, prepare the soil, plant the things, water, all the things. But then by summer, things have, beyond just broken ground and blossom, things are starting to fruit. And so things are growing a little bit more on their own without as much effort. And so we can sit back and let life start to flourish without so much toil. And so it really is that beautiful season of allowing abundance to just kind of come. And so how can you transition from that more assertive, active energy to a little bit more, I wouldn't say it's like no effort and no toiling, but like a little bit more of a balance of play and work, instead of just, really digging in. It's like, how do you find that more easeful balance in life? A little bit more time to play, a little bit more time to imagine, along with a little bit of work. It's just like that, the rhythm is just like a little bit more laid back. And so we have Herbcrafting, and it says, allow your roots to dive into the depths. Your spirit calls for grounding. Okay, so let's see the keywords in the deck. Gratefulness, grounding, connecting with the earth. I'm just going to read a sentence or two in here. You may be ready to receive answers to your questions. You could be depleted, and it's time to work with some herbs to get your balance back. Spending time alone, especially in nature, is advised. So it is literally like what I was saying, like tuning into some self-care. And I love that Litha, or the start of summer solstice, is also the start of Cancer season, which is about tuning into what quality of self-care do we need. I mean, it's about caring for others as well, but like also attending to like the care we need and like refilling our cup and literally grounding. And so it does feel very aligned with that like Cancer kind of energy. Like, how can you, find a little bit more solo time to tune into your inner world, to refill your cup? Do you need to spend a little bit more time in nature, or find some herbs, literally some herbs that help to rebalance something in you? Like, do you need to add some ginger? Are you a little bit inflamed from spring, where it's like you've been very, on and, with the storm of the orgasm, like a little bit on and stormy and like inflamed? So you need to find some ginger or some other herbs that like really calm some inflammation. or whatever else it is. Like, what is the thing that's overactive in you? Is there an herb that kind of balances that? You know, explore that on your own. But like in general, like refill your cup, pull back a little bit of alone time. It's just like, it's like time to recharge, but not in this, like, not in the winter way where it's like more sleep and more escapism. This is more like tending, listening inward and, working with herbs and putting your feet on the earth and feeling a little bit of sunlight on your skin, like those more nature, simple things that just refill you, ground you, calm you, that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's get a tarot card along with this. Ace of Fire. Yeah, I think that there's something about like just a little bit of directing focus towards refilling your cup and taking care of yourself and easing off of life a little. That refilling of your cup is going to really reconnect you with some passion, with a way to direct your passion that feels exciting, that feels, especially because there was something with the Awakening card that does feel like there was some kind of ending or big decision or graduation, something like that in spring. And so it feels natural that this transition to summer is like, get back to your core, get back to yourself, refill yourself, and find that spark of like, what's that next thing? What's that new impulse? So taking care of yourself a little bit, pulling back a little bit will help you to connect to your inner fire, to your passion, to impulse, and like finding that new spark that really activates something exciting and vibrant and alive inside of you. But you need some time to like, exhale and ground and calm first. Okay, so the next card for summer is, what can you look forward to for this summer? Daisies. There is a whisper of a glimpse of opportunities to fill your life with joy. It's like a little flower market. I love that. Okay, so let's look at the keywords in the book. Cheerfulness, pure joy, feeling better, love and care. I really like seeing that feeling better. That's something you can look forward to in summer. So right now, this transition, it's like, take some time for yourself. And I feel like before you know it, like in no time, you're going to be feeling better. And you're going to find new impulse and passion to engage with life with a little bit more cheer, a little bit more play, a little bit more just creativity for the sake of creativity, not to, share with the world, just to feel that you are a creative being kind of thing. Like just engaging with the beauty of life, engaging with creation, feeling plugged into a little bit of joy and a little bit of cheerfulness. And yeah, so I feel like before no time, if you take, that advice of how to transition, if you take that advice of regrounding, filling your cup, it's like in no time, you're just like you're gonna be feeling better. And it definitely confirms kind of what I was feeling about spring. It was a little bit stormy, right? but I think coming out of it, I was seeing coming out of it, like you were finding your rhythms and stuff, but getting back to yourself, you're going to be feeling better. That is what you can look forward to in summer. I have one suggestion for you to fill your cup, or to just plug into something that, like daisies, are just cheerful, bright, playful, fun-loving, silly creation with no real meaning, is on Instagram. There's this account called Tiny Chef. And if I don't, like, I've been watching at least one a day, and it just brings me so much joy. And it is just like this reminder to me daily of like just the potency of silliness, of just doing something creative that doesn't have to be profound, that doesn't have to mean anything, that's just fun, and I feel that Tiny Chef energy coming for you in summer. So go check that Instagram account out if you haven't yet. It's just the best. Okay, so a tarot card. I swear, so like I'm always sending them to my husband, who doesn't he thinks they're funny, but he is not as charmed as I am, and he's always just like, oh my gosh, you're so weird. And I'm like, I don't know how you cannot just adore this. Okay, 3 of Air, Echinacea. Soothing balm. Yeah. Oh, your heart's been a little disappointed. Like there's been some disappointment. But this is showing that like sometimes when we've had disappointment or heart breaks and aches, it doesn't mean you have to have had a heartbreak or ache, but minimally some like disappointment that you've been coming from maybe. What grows out of those cracks of disappointment or cracks in our heart is like a deeper, wiser, more compassionate elegance that has like a very healing quality in it, and it really pushes us to grow up. It really pushes us into a sense of grace and elegance. And so like under that layer of the feeling better and the cheerfulness coming from you is this elegance underneath it. You've been through some battle wounds that have hurt, right? And through that you've grown in really graceful ways. And so I feel this under the cheerfulness coming and the feeling better coming, that feels very, childlike and just fun and silly. It's like there's a lot of depth underneath that. And I feel this like, I don't know, I'm not finding words to express what is moving through me as I'm feeling into these two energies together. So I'm doing my best to find something to articulate here. I just like okay, so the contrast here. If you're not looking at the screen, you might miss what I'm trying to say here, but look at the contrast between the 3 of Air tarot card and like the beauty and the elegance and the depth that you just feel from looking at this card. There's just like something that is like elegant. There's a sophistication there because there's depth and wisdom and time-tested things, experience. Because echinacea is one of like the really profound healing plants, but it's also very beautiful. And so there's that wisdom of like understanding, having been through healing and how to heal because of that, but how to preserve and illuminate the beauty of grief and the elegance of knowing how to kind of like let go of things, against this card that is so childlike and so silly and so simple. And there's just this contrast here where it's like underneath that simplicity and that feeling better is something that is just really profound. And I think you're just finding a certain wisdom that even though like I'm coming into this essence in me that is more refined, that is more mature and elegant, it doesn't make me above pure silly joy. It makes me cherish that even more. And so there is this like really beautiful contrast, but in a complementary, like lovely way. And so something to look forward to, like underneath all of that stuff you've been through that's, pressurized you into this very graceful, compassionate person. There's a lightening up at the same time. There's an ability to let grief and let battle wounds be underneath just silly joy. You can hold both that feel quite opposite with ease and not be above just silliness, kind of thing. So something to look forward to. It does just feel like really starting to see the beauty of your battle wounds, and B, life lightening up and you allowing a little bit more silliness and cheer and just plain simple joy to be there. Okay, card 5 is what obstacle will you face and overcome in summer? We do know things are lightening up, or you're going to be feeling better. So I don't think it will be the same as spring's kind of the challenge you faced and overcame. My assumption, we'll see what cards come out, is that it will be not as intense. And we've got Sunstone. In the uniqueness of who you are lives a world yet to be discovered. Oh, so rediscovery of self. Like, that's the thread we've been talking about, is like there was some kind of finish point of something and we're moving to a new spark. And so that might be a challenge you start to face in summer, is like, okay, this next chapter, who am I? What am I about? What am I doing? What do I need to discover about myself that I haven't had, Sometimes after battle wounds, it helps us to veer into new directions and open to different paths that allow us to explore totally new sides of ourselves. And so that's what this challenge you're facing and overcoming feels like, of like, who do I want to be? What do I want this next chapter to be about? What's lighting me up? I need to face that. So I'm even comparing it to the daisy, which is the thing to look forward to, which is like simple joy. I feel like at some point, midway through this season, you might be like, I've really needed that, but I also now need to look to the future. I've been present, I've just been enjoying, I've just been kind of like letting summer be summer, but I feel like at some point you're going to have this thing of like, it's time though to start thinking about what's next. I can still engage, I can take my time with it. I can still just like engage with some light silliness, but like in the back of things, in the undercurrents of things, there may be this mode of like, what next? I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to put pressure on it, but it's there. Like, what next? Okay, so let's see if there's any good keywords associated with it. Opportunities, unexpected luck, and fame. Oh, interesting. So, she has totally, hold on one second. 2 different colors of eyes there. Something unexpected is coming for you. What it makes me feel like is like you've been living this life as a blue-eyed person, and suddenly this new thing comes in, like a new opportunity, a new path, and all of a sudden you're a green-eyed person. And it's like that, that dress that was such a big thing. I don't remember what year it was, like 4 or 5 years ago. It was like that dress that, like, when some people looked at it, it was gold, and when some people looked at it, it was blue. There might be something like that in you, where it's like, actually this girl has kind of hazily eyes, and when you look at those eyes in a certain kind of light, they look a little bit more blue, versus a different kind of light, they can come off more green, where they're like in this weird zone where they're not like a perfect concrete color, and it just depends on the light you see them in. And we all have that, we all are very dynamic. Humans are very dynamic. We adapt, we have many layers to us. And I feel like that's happening in summer, where it's like, for a long time, you've been in a certain light that has showed that blue-eyed version of you. But something's shifting, right? Like that, something closed in spring. And now you're lightening up and you're feeling a little better, and you're wondering what next? What's the next thing? And you're finding new passion, and like a different quality of light is starting to come in. And suddenly your eyes are appearing more green, as a metaphor for like feeling a different part of yourself that's part of you, and it's there, but there are parts of us that come out in response to what's happening in life. And that's what it feels like the light is shifting, the things coming into your life are a little different, so the response that's being drawn out of you is coming from a different place within you. And so you're starting to see yourself differently, and these different opportunities are coming in. And a lot of times when there are new things, aces can be very magnetic. When there are new things attracting in, there can be beginner's luck. There can be a lot of magnetic attraction around us. So take advantage of luck and opportunities flooding in, because a lot of times that is kind of a beginner's luck thing. It doesn't last forever. But if you start to feel that charge, that magnetic charge, it does also mean you're like responding to something really potent in you, there's something very potent in you speaking up, that's very eager to be expressed. So just like ride the coattails of that and keep going in that direction, and saying yes to those things that continue to draw luck and opportunities. It's very, you're finding a really deep resonance within you of something that's ready to kind of be active in you. So yeah, that's really cool to hear. So this was associated with an obstacle that you'll face and overcome. And it might just be that switch, like, oh, I've been responding from my blue-eyed side, or people, things I've been around have been bringing out that side of me. And now things happening are very different, and it's drawing out very different aspects of me that haven't really been on the surface for a while, or maybe have never really, I've known they're there, but they've never really been in circumstances that like needed them to be front and center. So that might be the obstacle of just like this flip, where it's like life is coming at you very differently and you're having to respond very differently, and it's like getting used to a very different version of you, very different things coming out of you. So at moments that can feel, I think, like a challenge, and at moments they'll feel like thrilling and exciting. But this does indicate it, this is something you will overcome. But I think there's just that transition of it is like, whoa, what's happening? And there can be like the echinacea and the Three of Air, where there's some grief in that card. There can be grief, even though like you've graduated, you're ready to move on, thinking back to high school, you graduate and you're kind of ready to be done when you're graduating high school, but there's still that grief of like, I'll never be that person again, and I'll never be as close with so many people in one building all day again. Like there's something to be said about the things that, even though we're ready to leave behind, that are hard to leave behind. And so, yeah, I do sense this underlying grief of some kind of chapter that's being done. And no matter how ready you are to be done with it, there's still things there, memories and time and, stuff. So it, can have challenges, even though there's exciting things coming up and readiness to move on, and there's a whole bag of stuff there. But you'll overcome this, facing a transition and overcoming that kind of like whiplash of it pretty quickly. Okay, let's get a tarot card for this one. The Lovers, finding your higher self, finding greater alignment within you. Those inner tensions of yin and yang, the blue eye, the green eye, finding how to align them, how to create channels of connection between disparate parts of yourself, which results externally as finding belonging too. When we find belonging inside of ourselves, we find belonging outside of ourselves. And that can sometimes result in love matches as well. The Lovers to me isn't always about a love match. It's a little bit more about the underlying thing, that harmonizing our inner tensions and finding our higher mind. But often it does align with finding our people and sometimes finding a love match as well. So that's a beautiful thing, like new community potentially coming in, new ease of who, finding that acceptance for the blue-eyed, green-eyed halves of you, parts of you, that how they finding a way that they complement each other instead of fight against each other, how they harmonize and make things actually better rather than separate. So yeah, I think you're really coming into yourself. You're definitely easing some inner tensions around identity, around what you want and who you are and what makes you happy, and who you, the kinds of people that make you feel a sense of belonging, sense of community. So really beautiful things coming in for you with that. Okay, last card is my favorite one to get to, and it is what can, or how can you experience the best summer ever? Okay. Rot and decay. It festers when left in the shadows. Bring it to life by giving it away. I have some thoughts already, but let's see what the keywords are real quick. Cycles of life and death, sacrifice for the greater good. To me, this is like perfectly fitting in with this story that's kind of been unfolding, where it's like leaving something, some chapter behind. It's that thing of like, okay, so let's go back to the high school analogy. You've graduated high school and there are these emotional things going on, like, oh, I'm never going to be in such a tight-knit group of people. You know, you're in the same building all day, every day for 9 months of the year for 4 years, you know, where it's like you really interweave with each other. You really, you know, and at some point you're ready to go move on to your next chapter, whether that's college or going straight into needing to work or a little bit of travel or whatever it is for you, you know, or was for you. I'm sure most people here have graduated high school. You know, so that ending happens. But for some people, you know, like you'll even see in movies, I'm trying to think of one. It's older, and it's called I think it's called Just Friends, and it's like I'm not going to tell the whole story, but basically like there's a person in the movie that like moves out of state, and they've built a life out of state, and then they have to come home for some reason. And it's like they get dragged back into all of the high school world they left behind, like their old crush and old enemies and allies, and you know, like they're just like back in high school after they've become an adult somewhere else. But you also see in their bedroom that like their bedroom is still their high school bedroom, and they're still holding on to certain things. And so there was a part of them that didn't ever leave high school, even though they thought they did. You know, there were still some, like, you know, they never cleaned out the high school posters and books they read in high school. And, you know, some of those things are keepsakes that are worth saving, but it's like the whole bedroom was their high school bed, you know, there was nothing changed about it. And it's like, yeah, that was some psychological baggage you didn't deal with, right? And now you're an adult and you didn't deal with it. And so I feel like this is saying, like, don't let that happen. Whatever you closed a chapter on, sure, there might be some keepsakes, right? Journals or little mementos, but like, let's just say that you're getting a divorce. I don't mean to bring in a negative scenario, but it's the thing that popped into my head. You're getting a divorce, you got the house, your spouse, ex-spouse moved, and you don't change anything about the house, right? I feel like minimally, if it were me, I would sell the house and move. But if you're in a state, you know, like maybe there's financial reasons and you stay in that house, I would be purging everything I could to make it feel like a new life. And so I feel like that's the analogy I want to bring up, so it doesn't have to be a negative thing like a divorce. Like endings can be like high school, where it's not like negative, it's just an ending. But whatever it is, whether it's your high school bedroom or your home that you got in the divorce, like there are things that you need to like clean out, right? So they don't rot. You need to face and process and purge and say, I'm letting go of this, and even do like a little ceremony, like I'm, you know, this and this and this belonged in the old chapter, this and this and this, they're mementos for memory. But we're not preserving this whole life, right? We're not preserving this whole chapter. There are things that need to be let go of, otherwise they're going to rot and decay. And live in my psyche and create patterns in my psyche that I'm not aware of. And so I feel like this is saying to have your best summer ever, it's time to do some purging of those types of things that are time to let go of along with the chapter. Is it psychological stuff where you might go see a counselor and help process some psychological stuff? Is it physical stuff like the high school bedroom, or, it might be time to just, box up the yearbook and the trophy, the few things you want to keep, but then like maybe take down the posters and the Star Wars bedspread and, that kind of like, what are the things that you need to process out and graduate from? And there's something about doing that I think will feel very satisfying and that will help you to really engage the beautiful things coming in for you this summer, where there is this like really silly, pure joy coming in and feeling better and new opportunities and feeling more harmonized within yourself and different opportunities coming for you. There's also something about the satisfaction of purging stuff from the last chapter that free you up to even more so enjoy the beautiful things coming in. So like, what is it that's ready to be let go of that allows space in life to grow, and that might also be, a whole closet of clothes that no longer either fit you or feel like you can be donated and someone else can enjoy them, right? Like, what are the things that are actually garbage for you that might be treasures for others? And that's continuing certain movement of matter of life and the cycle of life. And, we have to feed back to the movement of life to make room in our own life for things to grow and come in. And so I just get that sense that what this is saying in terms of how to have your best summer ever is like, they're just like the orgasm in spring, where it's like, that felt more very like discharging some turbulence within. This is even deeper. It's like there's even more to discharge here. And it's the stuff that, it's not this turbulent storm that's going on. It's the stuff that you're already done with, that is done, that it belongs to a cycle that is done. And purging it just will give you these releases that will feel like you can breathe. That's what I just felt. You can breathe. Like, it will give you your breath back to purge some stuff. Okay, last tarot card, Wheel of Fortune, and it will give you that sense of a new season of life, a new chapter of life that will really anchor that in for you, that this is a new chapter, and it's one that is going to be beautiful, and it's one that I get to be more whole in myself, be more aligned with who I am. And I need to let life move on. And to do so, there are some things I need to deal with and process and purge. So in doing that, it will just give you that sense of like, yeah, I can breathe. Life is moving on. Bright things are ahead. This is great. So that stuff. So, okay, last thing we're going to do is get you a power animal for this summer Liths season. Hawk, remember your mission. And I think that mission is new chapter. Remember your mission. New you, new chapter, new sparks, new passions, new directions, new opportunities. Look at, hawks are also messengers. Wait for messages. Be aware of messages coming in. Look at the bigger picture of things as well. And look towards the future, really. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave you guys. I hope this resonated. I hope it helped you to kind of look back on spring and kind of see some things with perspective, and then look forward at summer and feel a sense of encouragement and beauty coming in. And so yeah, if this did resonate, I always am very grateful for, and hope that you would leave a thumbs up, subscribe, share, all those things. Comments especially, all those things really help. That engagement stuff really helps this reach other people that might enjoy it as well. And but yeah, I just generally am appreciative that you are here, and wish you the very best summer, and I will see you guys in future readings.